Anyway, Your Grace, look, old boy, there are, and it's difficult to estimate, but well in excess of 10,000 people here. And that's only half of the people whose names are currently on a petition to save, and this has been a passion of mine for a long time now, Weekly Hall Wood. To you, to you, Your Grace, it's just another of your many woods. You've got woods coming out of your, and I say this respectfully, Your Grace, arsehole.
Good evening, everyone. So the situation, well, if you don't know what's going on, I can't imagine how you got here. But, I've been persuaded the best thing to do is go to the marketplace where there is a certain amount of cover in case it pisses it down, which, to be fair, when I arrived in Kettering, it couldn't have looked more like the Queen was somehow still trying to stop it. Right, so it's a case of off we go, following me, following Adam. I've seen less strange things in my life than 70 people. Cars coming both ways. Listen to Adam. Don't lose your nerve here. Okay, Adam has now deemed it is safe to cross the road. Please cross the road sensibly within your own time. We are again crossing the road. I repeat, we are again crossing the road, and again that decision's been made by Adam. Over there you can hear some ne'er-do-well. Yeah, just fans of other comedians probably. You'll get that.
They wouldn't know what
You get your sort of Acaster extremists. Those people who stop at nothing to disrupt the efforts of other scrawny men. But we're sending a clear message to them. I won't live my life in fear of Acasters. But too, we're up against a familiar problem. Fewer and fewer people want to tailor their holidays in that way now. The internet has changed the face of travel agency, of course it has. On another occasion, I did an advert campaign for Bing, the search engine which its main issue is it's not Google. That campaign cost £900,000. Is that the most expensive advertising campaign you've been part of, Mark? No. Pot noodle. Pot noodle is yes, pot noodle. The fuel of Britain. The shtick was that we were all Welsh and we were coal miners, but what we were mining was noodles. Yet again, the campaign was not a success because it followed the "it's dirty but you want it" and the "slut of all snacks" campaign, which was seen as industry leaders at the time. If you're not here for this, don't worry about it. It's just sort of happening. Yeah, this is why you maybe do. This woman, Louise, has brought an actual microphone and a portable app, everybody. That's the good news. The bad news is almost certainly I'll just revert to yelling because that's sort of my favourite thing to do. I'm sorry? Now, unfortunately, an odd situation has developed, which is already we do have quite a malign heckler. It's this young gentleman here, and on the way here he asked, when does the comedy show start? And quite politely I said, this is part of it actually, part of the shtick is the sort of thing. He said, I haven't heard any jokes yet. And I shouldn't tell you this really, for his own protection. I asked, why do you think people have been laughing? And he said, mindless idiots. That's you guys. Wow. Then I said, oh well, it will pass the time. And he said something which I won't report to you, but it was quite rude. I said, so we're taking a shit. He says, so we're taking a shit. Yeah, but you could have done that without leaving that. Well, I assume you have a toilet. So I've now, on top of the other, also that doesn't, I don't know how long it takes you to do that, but I got myself to go for longer than a toilet visit here. luckily, really, in view of the circumstances, I hope nobody has to throw themselves on the mercy of Pret. So, anyway, there is a world where this finishes with all of us just going in there, and there'll be more customers than Pretzo have ever seen in their lives. Which is no disrespect to Pretzo, I just always feel they've got sort of, again, it's a branding problem, isn't it? It's not Preacher Express, but it's not quite hot. What do you do for Pretzo? You just hang in there and hope to dominate the mid-range, but it's not a gimme because of Ask. Right, sorry, Jeannie, was it? Yeah. Didn't mean to yell pizza brands at you there. At least Jamie's Italian is out of the equation now, I suppose. That always complicated things. It made out it was mid-price, but it was sneakily expensive. So, look at this. I mean, this is a better setup than I've had at some talk. Yeah, I think I had a quick lesson on how it works before I left the house. That's what you like to hear. Louise said, I had a quick lesson on how it works before I left the house.
So, it needs switching on, I think.
It needs switching on?
Yeah.
You have to do everything around here. I feel like Prince Charles here yesterday.
Oh yeah, that is actually working. Can we show our appreciation for, well, both Louise and Jeannie actually. I couldn't be happier with it, Louise. Louise, by the way, runs something called Bookishly, is it? Which is, we've only come into each other's orbits today, or at least as far as I know. Louise runs a small business called Bookishly, which does kind of cool book-related memorabilia, and that's frustratingly almost all I know about you. I do like to snoop on people's Twitter, but yours is almost all about that. There was a little beef you had with the supermarket back in the lockdown. I use it to have a go at brand, she says. Very modern, this. Would you like to describe the nature of your complaint?
I can't remember which.
I couldn't remember. You were angry with, I think it was Tesco, because they encouraged people to shop for essential items, but only in store, and you were isolating. You felt that the offers should also extend to the website.
Right?
Yeah, right? Late November 2020. Yeah, of course you remember. You've been in isolation for 6 months, and you're seeing people in store getting preferential treatment. Of course, you're absolutely furious, Louise.
It might have been like on behalf of my parents, but yeah.
Your point stands, I think. Yeah. Did they get back to you?
I can't remember.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah.
No, they did not. It's a weird feeling when you're much more subscribed to somebody's own Twitter feed than they are. Where is... I'm trying to remember the name, but... well, Ben West's wife.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's you. Hi. So congratulations on finishing your dissertation. What was your name, sorry? What was your name? Amy. Amy, that's right. Amy finished the dissertation, what, today?
Yeah.
Today, and yeah, Ben's really proud. This has been months of work, at least by his account. This again is just from my tweets in the hour leading up to the show. I asked him what your dissertation was on, and he wasn't really able to describe it. He's very proud of you, but he hasn't got a fucking clue what you're up to. He said it had something to do with the use of metaphors in learning. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So it's an education-related degree and dissertation.
Yeah.
Can you? I see. So the use of metaphors to explain concepts to children.
Exactly that, except it's higher end.
It's higher end. I see. Very interesting. I was going to ask you to give us a flavour, but dissertations don't always work so well on the road. Who else have we got? Is anyone else involved in education? Yes, at least one person is.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the one to think of, actually. But I can't remember the guy's name. Mr. Kane...
Tate.
Mr. Kane Tate. Was Mr. Kane Tate? Oh, right. Are you with Mr. Kane Tate?
Oh, no, I am.
Oh, you are? Oh, I can see you're next to him, yeah. Fair play. Mr. Kane Tate is a young father, for one thing.
I am.
See, I knew the crowd work would be much more difficult in this setup, so I've done most of it before we got here. It's a bit like Darren Brown, but instead of psychic tricks, it's just assiduous research, basically. The kid will be, what, 4 now? Just turned 3, I've got my numbers wrong. Anyway, there's Pingu, there's In the Night Garden, it's all that stuff. Has he seen Dulwich Hamlet score a goal yet?
I think he has.
He's been taking this... Again, I think he has. Some of you guys don't know as much about your lives as I do. I'm only really just getting to know you.
He saw a goal away at Ebbsfleet.
You took him to an away game. The kid's 3, to remind you. Fair enough. Anyway, welcome. Yeah, that's fine. I think probably if I take this out of the stand, that'll be better, because I won't be so inclined to fiddle with it. Welcome then formally to this, to my knowledge, the only... I don't know if there is the only comedy show going on in Kettering tonight, but it will certainly be the only one in these circumstances. To recap, if you were just joining us, or if you happen to be here, this show ought to have taken place in what was a sold-out Kettering Arts Centre. If you've seen the venue, it's not as big a claim as it sounds. It's not really a theatre, it's a church. But it's a nice church, but because its role as a church, it's not been possible to do a comedy show there, so we're doing a comedy show quite literally here. You can take that, that's fine. There are obvious pros and cons to doing a comedy show like this. I suppose both a pro and a con is that there are, unlike in a theatre, no real curfews or time restrictions here. So this could all be, we could feel that in 10 minutes we've sort of used this idea up. Chap back there felt that ages ago, actually. That's an example of a joke, you see. And that joke actually relied on using something which you'd said, which was sort of, I think, quite a generous-minded thing to do in these circumstances. But anyway. He remains the definition of a tough crowd. It doesn't get much more passive-aggressive than sitting behind the comedian, I have to say. Even those guys in the fucking Muppets, at least you could see them. Nonetheless, but I'm pleased that you're here. I'm pleased everyone's here, so I'm going to leave you. What's your name, though?
Tate.
Sorry?
Tate.
Tate. Nice to meet you, Tate. You thought I was going to... there was going to be meanness there, but actually it was an attempt at bridge building. I think I was hoping for something like, oh, that's my brother's name, or, oh, that's my son's name, but I can't honestly claim that. We're not going to get very far by saying that's half of the name of a popular sugar brand, are we? Some of you are probably too old to remember. Well, no, Tate and Lyle are still out there. There are also other famous examples of Tates, of course, but it's probably not the most creative avenue we could go down. Look, here we all are in Kettering, famous market town. But how well... Here we go. It's time to play How Well Do You Really Know Kettering? This is a format which ultimately... Well, let's see. For now, we're trialling it where it deserves to trial, in Kettering, to people from in and around Kettering. But the dream is it goes global, this. The only thing is I don't want to cheapen... or adulterate the idea by extending it to other cities. Every episode will be Kettering. And if that makes it maybe more difficult to sell to the American markets, I don't care about that really. I'm a guy with a vision. My vision is that by 2025 there's a mainstream game show with purely Kettering trivia. Thank you, yeah. I mean, if it doesn't necessarily take off here, I will rethink. Firstly then, we all know Kettering is one of Northamptonshire's most bustling towns. But how many... Yeah. No, it isn't a very long list. And yes, you do sort of have to concede Northampton itself is bigger. But how many people lived in Kettering as of the 2011 census? For people like you, it's a piece of piss, a question like this.
We're all here, aren't we?
700,000 is well off. That would make it one of the biggest cities in the UK. 70,000 is a lot closer, yes.
50,000.
61 is the closest. Do I...
63. 55.
I'll give it to you at 63,650. So that's the kind of thing that can happen on... How well do you... I nearly forgot the name of my own game show there. That's just teething problems, that can happen. Okay. We've all sometimes been tempted to play a proper noun in Scrabble. Of course you can't. It's not illegal. But if it were illegal to play the word Kettering in Scrabble and you put it on a triple word score, how many points would it be worth? 44 is good, but not quite right. 49 is...
39.
I'm hearing a lot of numbers. I'm not hearing a number I like enough so far. But also, I might have this... Sorry?
42.
I'd like you to say that one more time.
42.
I really am enjoying this. It's 42! I think. Because K is 5, obviously. Everyone knows K is the only 5-letter tile. Then you've got E is 1, T is 1, T is 1, E is 1, that's 9. R is 1, that's 10. I is 1, that's 11. N is 1, that's 12. G is 2, is 14 times 3 is 42. That lady's right. Yes. I can do that for any major town, but people don't often ask. In the late 1980s, which football league team did Kettering Town sensationally knock out of the FA Cup? Bristol Rovers is correct. I didn't need to Google that. I support their rival team. I still remember it. I still remember the goal scorer, Cook. Well, the winning goal scorer is 2-1, obviously. And that is, we're getting close to the end of... Excuse me. You weren't there originally, were you? You'd have done well to get in there and get a drink and come out again. Fair play. I think my favourite type, I mean, you're all welcome, but I think my favourite type of audience members are, your friends and mine, accidental ones. All right. Where did, you probably know this, because, well, I don't know, maybe not. Where did Kettering rank in a recent poll of what is the happiest town in Northamptonshire?
6.
74.
7.
It's not 0, although in a way that is the closest yet from Tate. Not 7th, not 6th. Give yourself a bit more credit.
5th. 4th. 3rd.
I'm gonna have to ask you to keep going up. It was the happiest town in Northamptonshire. But you've really made me doubt myself. Spicy from Tate, he says, is that before or after you showed up?
Big part, big part.
Lively stuff from Tate here. It's pretty rare, in my experience, that a show gets cancelled, you offer a free alternative to it, and someone appears just to shit on that. Hello, if you've just arrived, you're very welcome. In fact, you'd be more than welcome to sub in for one person. There's 3 of you though. How's the Instagram live going?
We've got 137 people, and someone's just said...
Yes, there are more people watching online than are watching here. You might think that's unlikely, but here's an amazing statistic. There are more people on the internet than in Kettering.
Johnny says hello from California.
We've got someone watching from California! Hi, Johnny. Very, very difficult to describe what's happening here. But if you live in California, you'll have seen Kettering in the movies. You'll have seen the likes of Notting Hill. Basically, all of it is shot in Kettering, all these films. And what you can see here is the iconic... it looks a bit different when they claim it's Piccadilly Circus because they put all this stuff up. And just over there, for those of you watching, is the iconic Prezzo. She's great camera work from close. Is all this been on Instagram Live so far?
Yeah, the whole
I'm just
walk,
mentally backtracking over whether I've said anything that, you know, these are, I mean, we're allowed to do this, as far as I know, but you do just wonder about the, respect and everything. I am, well, this may seem a bit feeble, but I did buy this yesterday. Yesterday, I was warm-up act to the very well-known doctor and comedian Adam Kay in Leeds, and there were, I'd say, slightly more people even than this. There. In fact, I'd say it was in the region of 5,000 people in the First Direct Arena in Leeds, and there was a bit of to and fro about, this is how confusing the rules currently are. No one was clear whether we were able to do the show or not, and in the end, the verdict was you can, but you ought to wear black. And we had to start with a minute silence, which, this is a moment where Tate might say, nothing unusual for you. Come on, mate, pick it up. I won't say it's not a good enough joke, snipes, Tate. This is an amazing situation. It's the most unpleasant audience member I've probably ever had at the most public-spirited gig that I've ever put on. And there's absolutely nothing any of us can do about it, because Tate is, to be fair, not an adult. And, well, actually, I don't know that. I don't mean that as a in a derogatory manner. I mean that's where the stats appear to be pointing. How old are you, Tate? 13. Absolutely not cool for me to deal with this situation. Real silver bullet, this, an arsehole kid. I mean, my son's 12 and he'd have been taken home a long time ago here. But I don't have that. I don't have any parental responsibility over this chap, and so there's very little I can do. So if you're watching on Instagram, we're all having a lovely time, with one memorable exception. Also, Flo, how long has this sort of been so far?
I don't know, actually. I don't think you can tell.
I think there's quite a real prospect that I'll...
Oh, 160 people now.
Well, actually, you may be surprised to hear this, based on some of it, but we're gaining people on Instagram. If we just like break it to me gently, have we broken the internet yet? Because you hear about that happening, and like in such a precarious week anyway, the last thing I want to do is be responsible for that.
Yeah.
The internet's still intact?
Getting there,
it's breaking.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know whether to be insulted or pleased by the fact that I think this is the most people I've ever had for an Instagram live. But I don't really know how these things work. I suppose this is how they work, isn't it? This is the secret. All you've got to do to go viral is just sort of oldest trick in the book. Travel from Leeds to Kettering, and yeah, exactly. You start to wonder if every tour I should sort of build in a few of these with just very, very slightly more extensive ticket restrictions. Anyway, so what is the actual time, Flo?
I don't know, it doesn't say.
That's
on
all
here.
right, you don't need to know that.
8.
5:08 already. Okay, so we've...
Oh, you mean what the time is? Okay, sorry. 35 minutes.
You've got a clock up there.
I forgot we were outdoors. Yeah, there's no mistaking there is a very large clock up there. I suppose the difference between this and a lot of gigs is I don't normally have a magnificent church to my left. Yes, again, Flo, so for those of you watching from California, this is the iconic Church of St. Kettering, which for several hundred, other than Notre Dame, probably up there is the sort of one of the 3 or 4 sort of what we call the big churches in the game. And in fact, the fire at Notre Dame was seen by some people as a deliberate attempt by Kettering to sabotage. So actually, what is the church? St. Peter and Paul. That's right. We're playing How Well Do You Really Know Kettering? This is a bonus round not expected by me. I don't think I could fail to be conscious of the fact there are now more people dining outside there than when I started. I don't know what it would be like to begin your dinner and then find this is happening, but it is. St. Peter and Paul, eh? Greedy. 2 of the biggies in one church. It's a sort of McBusted situation. Oh, he's gone. I look round because, like, if a 13-year-old doesn't crack at that, I don't know what I'm doing. And how well do you know your Kettering churches? How old is I can take a rough guess looking at the architecture, but it's rough. How old did anyone know when the church was built?
It's 800 years old.
It's 800. My guess is way off in that case. It's medieval. Good heavens. I'm starting to think Kettering isn't a shithole. bit of fun for the locals there. Goodness me. No, I never thought that. I never thought that at all. It seems really nice, actually. I mean, well, my experience of playing in Northamptonshire has been Kettering, Corby, and Northampton itself, of course. Northampton not that long ago, and Corby, yeah. I've only played once in Corby. It was a difficult evening for me, but I don't think it was the fault of the people in Corby. I was also having a difficult time in my life, and I think it's fair to say, and I won't be the only person who's done this, made Corby responsible. Northampton has generally treated me pretty well. There's the Royal and Durngate again. Old Johnny Two Names. It's a real thing around here where you don't want to make a decision. 800 years. It's really, of course, churches often are beautiful, bathed in this sort of slightly peculiar evening light. I mean, that's not. Yeah, I think they've also got some actual lights there. Just wondered whether is it Church of England or Catholic Church? Started out as Catholic, went Church of England, the opposite trajectory from some churches I could mention, and sorry. Yes, well, the Reformation, it's fair to say, and I don't think none of us wants to get into the divisive subject of the Reformation. It sure as hell, I shouldn't say how, it certainly shook up the old church map, and no mistake. A few churches, shall we say, changed hands in that period. But dear old St. Peter and St. Paul's, it oversaw all. Think of I tell you what, and I don't often say things like this, and maybe it's the emotion of the week getting to me, but my word, if churches could talk. that church saw Chaucer. He didn't, as far as we know, visit Kettering, but it's very difficult to rule it out. Actually, it's easy to rule it out. I'm a Chaucer geek. I can tell you where he went. He mostly, well, he didn't get, as far as we know, much further north than, and to be fair to him, he had to go with the court of the king. Although there was a period where he would have been in Pontefract, but that is still quite a long way away. Anyway, my point is, that church has seen, and this is not an exhaustive list, but England winning the World Cup, all of Challenge Annika from start to finish, and I'm just going through the major events in British history here, like the entire life of the painter John Constable, everything Aha released, and that's, and you know, all of it, the invention of the stamp, quite a lot of these trees being planted, the business with King Henry VIII, the musical Six, which was about the wives of King Henry VIII, its difficult beginnings, its success in the Edinburgh Fringe, its transfer to the West End, which some felt was premature, its Major League tour, which was derailed by the pandemic, its abortive attempt to reinvent itself in aircraft hangars. All this is true, but Christ knows how I know anything about it. No, I haven't seen Six. And it's... Sorry? Let's not talk about Off Menu. That, to be fair, is a brilliant bit of Kettering-specific heckling. The origins of which are... that'll have gone down well online. If I know the internet...
Loads of love hearts.
Down below, they'll be plastering that with hearts, like someone from Mid-Sanson Frontier plastering an ill person with bandages. What more do I have to do to Acaster than literally come to his fucking town and stand here individually? Anyway, if you don't know what the Off Menu is thing, we'll come to it in. And I haven't used this phrase until now, but I think we are going to have an interval with the second half. That was always kind of my idea, but I don't know how tenable it is. I mean, we won't have to be a long interval. I just think it's really funny in a situation where we're not in a theatre. But there will be people that probably need a wee and such. And I mean, I was going to say some people need a drink, but that is opening something of a can of worms, because it's very unlikely we all. And again, we can't really get a table for 75 in place. I just ordered 28 bottles of Prosecco. Tempting as it would be to do that, and viral as such a clip would go. Pretzel, I believe, means ready, but are they ready for that? And also, I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing from the French for ready, obviously. But you'd be surprised how much Italian you can guess if you know French. But again, maybe that's a second half topic. Is that a pub opposite? It is, isn't it? But we're going to have to... I think the phrase is box clever here.
There are loads of off licenses.
Oh yeah, there's also that place, yeah. I think... What we can't all do is descend on one pub and scare the shit out of the proprietors. What certainly most of us, I don't know, is this even...
You can order with the little app.
You can order with an app. I tell you what, what's your name? Alison. Oh, you're the Alison. I also chatted to you earlier on Twitter. Alison's had a strong first half. Church facts, app ideas. This is what you want from the audience member. It's easy to just sit there shitting on everything from behind, or you can just do an Alison. Know your ecclesiastical history. Think about apps. The past and the future from Alison, a renaissance woman of this Kettering gig so far. Is that true though? Is there an app that would... Yeah. But also, I mean, are they...
Bring it out.
We can order to here, you reckon?
There's a menu on the table.
Table 113.
Right. Well, this is going to be one of the more complicated rounds that I've arranged. Sorry?
It's on you.
Well, I think in a sense it should be, yeah, because everyone is humouring me here. And I'm more than happy to do that, but the logistics do still worry me a bit. I think it's a case of... All right, so... Did someone say that, or you just...
Yeah, the manager said, just say for outside.
Now, once you've gotten in with the manager... I suppose if I was the manager and a comedy show appeared on my doorstep, I would be interested. It would be a poor manager that looked at this and thought this is not an economic opportunity. And it's a shame that I said economic and opportunity as one word there, because at the end of the day they are their own things. Right, okay, so I mean, well, this is the other thing. Yeah, we could. Of course, Jeannie's tired. Are you tired? Yeah. You're going to take her home and come back. Unbelievable stuff from Louise here. My God, if I was a supermarket, I'd give her what she wanted. Huge effort. Of course, we will lose the Instagram audience if we break, but I think we're going to hope they come back. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
We don't care about Instagram, says that woman. Yeah.
If they know they've got 15 minutes, they'll be back.
If they know they've got 15 minutes, they'll be back. I'm really enjoying just sort of crowdsourcing this entire. And you're right. And to be fair to whoever said that, we don't care about Instagram was an attitude that I myself adopted, I'd say about 7 years ago, and I found myself, as a result, outsold by inferior comedians. I won't name names, but I say there is a second half. It would be a bad turn indeed if this ended up with me just naming comedians who are prolific online, and I think it undermines their actual performance. But also, I don't actually have any bitterness. Certainly not at the moment. Who could wish for more than this? Here I am in Kettering for some reason. The funny thing is, and I wasn't joking when I said it, sorry, I'm just conscious of there's been a few passers-by, nearly always, this would be about Jesus, I accept that. That's the only thing you could think if you saw this happening. Some of it has been about churches, but the churches and Jesus have in some ways gone their separate ways, disastrously over the past 2,000 years, I would say, as a student of theology, but not a believer. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I was going to say, as I've already mentioned, my actual Kettering show will still happen in November, and also I came here, when? I played the Arts Centre it must have been last autumn, just after it opened.
It wasn't same day.
Yeah, you were there.
3 days back. Yeah, it was.
About September, October. Yeah, so unless there's a further turn of events, I'm just reflecting on the fact I will achieve the feat of a hat-trick of Kettering shows in a less than 15-month period. I'd be surprised if Acaster himself has done that. So there you go, strange way to become a sort of Kettering national treasure, and yet here we are. Right, so I think, I mean, I'm still in two minds about how to do this. I think, okay, yeah, I mean, it's probably, sorry? You've just ordered? Scab! Sorry, I watched Jesse Longshot in Edinburgh, it's catching. No, fair enough, I mean, but you probably didn't order 100... No, quite right. So I think what I'll do is maybe I'll go in and talk to the manager and just work out sort of how we proceed with our lives here. Those guys just getting off with each other, don't mind it. Romance blooms yet again at a Watson Tour show. Right, so incredibly, we've now been doing this for what would be the actual regulation length of a first half of a theatre show, but without any of the advantages which a theatre normally confers. For example, your sense that you are watching a show. So I think all of us deserve a break. If you're watching this on Instagram, and I mean, you've already heard us talking about you, some of us in quite harsh terms, but we do value you. You can go somewhere for 15 minutes, but be aware this will... Do you have to stop it and then you basically stop it and then...
Yeah, I think I'll do that. Yeah.
Sometimes we call it Insta Live. Not everyone's as cool as me. So see you back on Insta in 50 minutes. Also, if you're watching this and you can tweet me, I can at least look at that in the interval because I understand how Twitter works. Right, it's time to try to buy several dozen drinks, I think, and see you after. Well, see you after the break, but also we'll all still be here. So see what's happening. Well, we've all seen it before. IDA, interval drinks admin. I've been speaking to the manager, whose name is Ollie, I think, or anyway, it's that sort of name. And it's like Ollie or Louis, or it's Yeah, that's right.
No. Oh, yeah.
Guys, we're gonna sort it. We're gonna sort it.
Yeah.
Oh right, what table? 113. You've got a glass of red. You've got a mango juice.
We didn't.
This guy's doing other drinks admin. He's got every right to do because he's the manager of the
There we
pub.
go. Sorry. There we go. Done. Sorry.
It was Ollie, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ollie.
I told you Ollie. The heart said maybe Louis, but I was mostly Ollie. Okay, so Ollie and I have got a plan which is basically... Ollie, by the way, is the manager of this establishment here. Around the We think it's a case of finding out who is drinking and then who wants wine, who wants beer, and then doing a crudely estimated order of wine and beer. Out it comes, we get on with our lives. Well, I think it might be hands in the air rather than going around everyone in. Yeah. To be fair, your hand is in the air, all right. Yeah, I think it probably comes down to beer or wine. It's similar to, and I don't like to compare myself to the guy, but it's a bit like the feeding the 5,000 stunt here. As in, I don't think he gave them loads of menu options. It's bread and fish. But actually, the more I think about it, the more I withdraw the idea that I'm making myself Jesus, especially in this complicated week of emotion for a lot of people. Anyway, so firstly then, who's drinking beer? Hands in the air if you're the sort of person that would like a beer. And now this is me and Ollie. It's our first time as a double act, really, and so obviously we're still finding our rhythm a bit, but I think there's quite a bit of promise in this.
I'm going 40. There we go.
40 in the end. And Watson, just has a quick think about the cost of that. That's fine. And then, how many people does that leave drinking wine?
35. Got one.
Is that a guess, though? I don't know how many people there are in total, otherwise I... Well, it's sort of free, I'm getting it, yeah. So it's free. Thank you, yeah. So if you're watching on Instagram, people said, in a maternal way. But actually, I get that a lot anyway because of my status. Right, so it's the oldest order in the book, really. 40 beers and 24 wines. So 24 wines will be about 5 or 6. Sorry? I didn't think of the dog, yeah. What will the dog have? You sure? Still or sparkling?
All off menu.
Bit of fun, bit of catering fun. Yeah, so maybe 5 bottles of wine, and then but you've got to think about me as well. So 9 bottles of wine. Let's get half a dozen bottles. Are we going to break it down to red or white preferences?
Red.
Let's do red.
That's not. Please don't get us onto rose, The wine of the indecisive. We'll do it like a wedding. 3 whites, 3 reds, 24 beers. No, actually 40 beers, wasn't it? 40 beers. That's good. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And then I'll come in and settle at the end. Wink. Yeah, fine. Amazing.
Can I go?
You can go.
Right, Roger, I'm off. Bye.
That's all, everyone. It's not often that an order is so extensive that at the end of it the waiter says, "Can I go?" As if breaking off quite a long-lasting relationship. But fair play. But we now recommence what you'd call the interval, I think. So
Okay.
I think, well, for a start, it's nice to have a little break, and also I don't know how long this will take, but the moment when it happens, it'll be one of the bigger drink orders that I've seen executed, I think. So I might even go and see if I can help bring it out. In fact, but, huge acclaim, I think, for Ollie and his team when it comes out. I mean, obviously, in a way, they're doing quite well out of this. The guy didn't wake up this morning thinking, I expect that quite late in the evening there'll suddenly be an order for 64 drinks originating from the steps outside. But all the same, this is a challenge, I think I'd say, for them. So yeah, let's see how long it takes, and if it's more than a few minutes, I'll just crack on anyway. But for now, as you were, feel a bit bad that we did. Is this Instagram live?
Yeah, it's still on.
Sorry about springing this on you. I know we said we had 15 minutes off, but we thought you'd like to see the actual process of the drinks order. You know. How many came back?
79.
About half of them.
I think they think it's the start of the new.
They probably do think that. But boy, are they in for a shock.
Yeah.
We'll get another Insta live. That's what happens on Insta. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. I might go on TikTok in a minute. You can't stop me. I need to know how that is done, though. I do have a TikTok account because my son made me set one up. But I've never posted anything. I've got 3 followers, and I don't know how we proceed. Right, see, again, I accept you haven't really got anywhere to go, but by all means, wander over and have a look at the 800-year-old church. And I'll think about some of what we do in the second half, including Googling at least one more fact for the game show that's sweeping the nation. How much do you really know about Kettering? Is it called that, or how well do you know? It's so important that we get a settled brand. I think I might just call it Kettering ! Okay, well, I didn't really have this opportunity in the first half, but I think I might actually bring myself on this time. I think probably what you want is to be at the top of the church there and start the bells, but that would have taken more prep, I think.
Do you want someone to announce you?
Yeah, maybe it's time for someone to announce me. Yeah, let's
Sounds like we've got a volunteer.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'd probably not take realistically. Yeah, does anyone want all you have to do is basically say, please welcome to the stage, Mark Watson. Well, the latest microphone is, I think, is not back here yet. Yeah? Des will do it. Of course Des will do it. If the name Des doesn't scream, he'll do it. I don't know what does. So basically, I'll just sort of... I'll just, immediately, very promising from Des, which way are you coming in from? Des's head is in the game. I think, Des, I'll just... I think I'll go what they call in the game prezzo side.
You've seen him on Taskmaster. You've not heard him off menu. Yet. It's our favourite comedian of Kettering, Mr. Mark Watson.
Let's not go mad on the "We Love You, Des" stuff, I think. Excuse me, I want to win this period. If you're on Instagram Live, you missed that probably. But in the interval, the proprietor of this place came out, tried to get people to leave positive reviews, used the phrase, I want to win this period, and generally did a pretty successful stint on the mic, actually. Yeah. I think that was slightly uneasy with how well Ollie did do. Lovely work from Des there. When you start winning over the Deses of this world, you feel like you've got a long-term future. And those are the guys you really want, the kids, the future Kettering audience. You can't win all those people, and you actually are not really meant to look at kids and say things like you can't win all of them. So let's deal with. We're going to deal with this off-menu business, I think, and some of what I have to say to you will be ugly. Very quickly, a welcome back to those of you on Instagram Live or TikTok, or this is also now on Top of the Pops. How many Instas these days?
108.
108. So 2/3 of the original crowd are back. You obviously lose some people because they're thinking, well, it will stop again and come back again in 7 minutes, but this is the real deal now. You might have seen that just before walking away in the first half, a woman shouted, have you been booked on Off Menu yet? A brief history of me and the popular podcast Off Menu. Off Menu is a podcast by Ed Gamble and a chap called James Acaster, who I discovered in the interval doesn't actually come from Kettering, but a small village outside Kettering. Do what you want with that information. Yes! I won't tell you which village because it would be burned down by the morning. I'll merely note that it might be time to reassess your relationship with this guy and maybe thinking about letting another 10 or 11 stone comedian into your heart. I'm the top end of 11 to be fair, but I've not been for a run for a week because of COVID. I don't have COVID anymore. I should have made that absolutely clear. Yeah, we can all remember. Anyway, so look, Off Menu is a very fun, food-based podcast which Acaster and Gamble do. And they have guests on who describe essentially their dream restaurant. Most of you probably know this. Most of you probably have Acaster in your heads 24/7. Acaster lives in there, as they say these days, rent-free. But were he have to pay for rent, Acaster would be able to, because of the success of Off Menu. About 6 months ago, somebody, they always tweet clues, you'll know this if you're following them on Twitter, as to who the guest might be. They did a tweet saying something like, "Elementary, my dear Watson." Was it me? It was not. It was the much more famous Martin Freeman, who played Watson in Sherlock. But lots of people took it to mean me, and so there were lots of tweets saying, "Oh, it's you, it's Mark Watson. I like Mark Watson, can't wait for that." It was embarrassing when it turned out not just to not be me, but to be another more successful person pretending to be called Watson for money, when I've actually been called Watson for less money for 42 years now. Also, side note, I don't think I probably have to school you in this, but the phrase "elementary, my dear Watson" never appears in Arthur Conan Doyle's work. It was made up for the adaptations. In the books, his catchphrase is "Watson, you prick, those are your own fingerprints." Anyway, fine. It was a funny misunderstanding. Ed Gamble, who, like Acaster, is a really nice guy, tweeted these people and said, "No, it's not Mark, actually it is." But the following week, it was another guest, this time nothing to do with, it couldn't be mistaken for me. It was someone like, I don't know, it wasn't Hillary Clinton, but the podcast is so successful it might as well have been. And a number of people thought it would be funny to again tweet going, "That sounds like Mark Watson." And once again, I had to distance myself from the idea that I was on this podcast. You might think that was where the joke would end, but then that means you've not been on the internet. For the following, I'd say, 17 weeks consecutively, no matter what the clue was, at least a dozen people would go, "It must be Mark Watson." And this is still going on. Every time an episode of Off Menu comes out, a significant number of people tweet going, "That sounds like Mark Watson," and I have to distance myself from the idea that I could be on it. And in the meantime, people like Tim fucking Key have been on it. A number of my friends have been on it. Comedians, they have amazing guests Off Menu, but sometimes they have guests that I would not necessarily consider more prestigious than me. But obviously, and I don't blame Ed or James for this, I do the same in their position. They've now got to a position where it's funnier for me to never be booked on Off Menu. But the thing is, I like the podcast and I'd like to be on it, and there's just nothing we can do. It's a stalemate. And Ed Gamble even tweeted me saying, "It's much funnier to me if you never are on it." But is it funnier, really? How long will this go on? They could do another 5 years of that, and I'd still be fielding these off-menu tweets. Now, okay, fine, these things happen. Podcasts are podcasts. One cannot live one's life hoping to appear on podcasts. I'm still waiting in vain for a response from Springsteen and Obama. Well, you know, if you don't know, those guys have got a podcast, and yes, a lot of the guests are more famous, but I'm familiar with Springsteen's work, and I was pleased when Obama won the election. So what have you got to do, really? Both the elections. I even stayed up to watch the second one against McCain, even though he'd obviously won, and I was hammered. And even though Obama and I are both left-handers, still absolutely nothing from there. Right? What more do I have to do? Right? I've been holding my glass with this shitty old hand for 40 years. Nothing still from the former president. Anyway, that battle maybe has got away from me. But this off-menu thing, well, what could hit James Acaster where it hurts more than sneaking into his hometown? I'll tell you what could hurt him more. Sneaking into his hometown and then, before him, getting onto the Walk of Fame over there. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, and I'd say that was me half an hour ago, the Kettering Walk of Fame over there, by the way, I don't entirely want to compete with the music coming from that car, but also it's not my first rodeo. That would be Tate, you watch. So if you're watching on Instagram Live, a vehicle has pulled up outside the gig saying what I can only call Oh, hang on, it's the pub themselves. I thought it was coming from a car. If it's the pub, we've got a more significant rival. To be fair, the pub has just seen an order of well over £10,000 going to that pub. No, it wasn't that much, but it was a significant blow to them, I think. So there's a pub opposite playing what we could probably call... I was going to say wall-to-wall bangers, but the public have spoken. Well, I can't hear what it is. What it is dance. It's like, okay, fine. All I can hear is and I don't use this phrase without sort of some trepidation, but the beats are quite fat. Is that fair, Jasmine? Yeah. Those aren't thin beats out, of course, now, are they? Those are.
Heavy beats.
Yes, mate, they're heavy beats. There's a significant amount of sort of heft about the beats coming from the place across the road. And a different comedian might think, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about that. But I'm not a different comedian. By definition, really, given what different means. I'm the same comedian as myself. You don't see Prezzo just pack up and go home, and you don't see Watson do it either. But it is loud. But what can I say? What would Obama say? If they go low, we go high. If they go, now this is what I call Dance 2007, I go, no, that isn't the name of a compilation. What it is like, it's a Spotify playlist called something like Songs for When You Run That Sort of a Pub. And that's absolutely fine, but I'm a comedian for when you run this sort of a gig. And this sort of a gig is me, on some steps, in Kettering, in the shadow of magnificent church. Anyway, back to Off Menu. And that supposed Kettering resident Acaster. Fine. Pretty soon it'll be a remix of Finally It's Happened to Me, and we'll just live with it. Yeah, remember? Within 50 minutes we'll hear that god-awful version of Fast Car that did the rounds 2 years ago, which looked like it was the biggest problem we had, but we didn't know about the virus. So there you can see somebody obliviously walking up the Walk of Fame. You might imagine that James Acaster is that's the definition of oblivious. Didn't even look round when he became part of the comedy show. Oh, he did? Right. Give us the thumbs up. Fine. But I wouldn't have minded him staying. By the way, there's someone here. This is amazing, I think. I met someone in the interval that wasn't here at the start, was watching Taskmaster, the series with me on it, took a break from watching it, scrolled through Instagram, saw this was happening, and it was as if I'd manifested from Taskmaster. And where are you? Oh, could have been a lie, I suppose. Anyway, so I might have dreamt it. So I think probably, and again, there is no sense that I'm waging a war with Acaster. I like the guy. I just think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if I was etched into Kettering immortality before it happens to him. Very shortly, I'm going to make a formal bid to do that by, well, you'll see how. I hatched a sort of electoral strategy during the interval. But first of all, it's the return of the game show that's driven the internet wild. Formerly known as How Well Do You Really Know Kettering, or something similar to that. But it's now simply called Kettering! All right. What major business celebrates its centenary in Kettering this year?
Wait a bit.
Simpsons.
I was going to give you a clue. The clue was going to be they cut the shit out of keys. The answer is yes, Simpsons. He's not even from Kettering. How do you know that then? Common sense, he says. Come on, all of us know when Simpsons began in Kettering. Okay. In what year did Andrew Carnegie, or Carnegie, I'm never sure how you pronounce his name, open the library here?
Carnegie.
I didn't even think about Carnegie, but that's right, isn't it? Like Carnegie Hall. Sorry? Well, I've forgotten. 1924? 1904? Well, I mean, it's over there. Can someone just go and check, please? I know it's on the wall, but I mean, it's just like there. While we check, in what state of the United States did Andrew Carnegie eventually die, sadly? No, keep them coming. It's not Ohio. It is 1904. Now, on to the state of Andrew Carnegie's death.
New York.
Not New York, good guess.
Washington.
Although his resting place is in New York, so half marks. Not Washington. Not Ohio, not Idaho. Still not New York, no. I don't think it will change. The guy's gone. Not Louisiana. Go north. Massachusetts is correct. And that's the end of the latest bit of How Well Do You Know Kettering? But now, and it's time to give things a more personal spin, how well do I really know Kettering? Well, I'm a guy that's invested pretty heavily, mentally and emotionally, in Kettering this evening. And I don't think it's too much to ask that, and of course, we don't do these things for posterity, we don't do them to be remembered by history, but I do think you do wonder if there's a space for me down there. And obviously, I can just stand here and beat the drum for myself, or I can call up the Deputy Mayor of Kettering to the stage. Would the Deputy Mayor of Kettering please make yourself available? People of Kettering, is your Deputy Mayor! Quick caveat, I was introduced to this person in the interval as the Deputy Mayor of Kettering. I have no idea whether that's verifiable. What's your name?
My name's Emily Fedorovich. I am actually the Deputy Mayor, yeah, but supporting Kelly Watts, who is a fabulous, fabulous mayor. If she were here tonight, she'd be up here too.
Big if, she's not here. This is not about, with the greatest respect, tonight is not about Kelly Watts. It's about Emily Federici, was it?
Yeah, about right. Yeah.
About right, yeah. Let's try and get closer, Emily.
Fedorovich.
Fedorovich, so nowhere near, actually. Fedorovich, Eastern European, Croatian or Serbian or?
Ukrainian.
Ukrainian in the air. There we go. That's how you get elected. I see. Not to be rude, but where is Mayor Watts this evening?
She's been doing loads of things today. She's probably, Bardic picnic earlier today, so yeah.
Sorry?
She was at the Bardic picnic.
People keep saying Bardic picnic.
It's her birthday. It's her birthday.
It's Mayor Watts' birthday. Fair play, of course.
Birthday, yes.
Fair play. Also, the mayor probably didn't expect to have to deal with a situation like this. God, but if we'd known that, we could have tied it in with her birthday.
That's true, yeah. No, we could have given her a birthday celebration up here.
We still can.
We still, in a way, we still can. But
James Acaster gig tonight, though.
Sherlock and Off Menu next week, you watch. Now, Emily, I don't know how much jurisdiction you have over this, but what do you think it would realistically take for me to get onto the old walkway there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think, exactly, it's the petition. I think it's the will of the people, really. This is all about history here. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I also don't know how much power I have to wield next year, but, you know, also Kelly might be very in on the game, especially as it's her birthday. If you could, I don't know, work that into how wonderfully personal this evening has been.
I tell you what, some mornings you wake up and you think, what's in store for me? And the answer is learning that Kelly Watts, the Mayor of Kettering, shares a birthday with Taskmaster's Alex Hall. That's where we are.
If you could work that into your act for the next year, you might have a chance.
As in for the whole of the next year. Challenge accepted, sir. I quite let Emily use phrases like, this is about history and it's about the will of the people. Well, look, we know that about 65,000 people live in Kettering. This is not all of you, but it's a significant cross-section, I think. We just now need to get the other 64,000, no, more than that. We need to get everyone else in Kettering on side. What, I don't know, what sort of a chunk of, I mean, how many names on the petition before it? you think before it becomes a reality? I know you didn't expect to be doing this.
I don't know. I mean, well, we've got a very big petition in Kettering, and it's got about 20,000 signatures. So I'm thinking it probably needs to be a bit around that mark.
What is that?
Weekly Hall Woods. Save Weekly.
Save Hall Woods. Okay. A third of the population of Kettering have signed that.
Yeah. People really, really care about the woods.
I mean, I guess you basically. You're preaching to the converted here. We might as well start talking about the fish man. But, hi. But the Weekly Hall Woods then in a couple, because of course we've got people from all over the world here watching. We've got people from California watching, so they can probably dive into that Silicon Valley dollar and save Weekly Hall Woods almost overnight. What's the issue?
The issue is that the north of Kettering wants to be developed, or they're planning to develop it, and the people want to save it. They want to make it into a country park.
Of course they do. What developed by whom? By a housing, by a developer, by a private.
Yeah, so it's owned by the Duke of Buccleuch, but it's being developed by Buccleuch Property, which is like a part of it.
And for those of you watching online, the woman behind me just started a rousing but ultimately not very popular chorus of Boo Boo Buccleuch. There they go again. So there you go. Well, Boo Boo Buccleuch indeed. But let's not move away from the principal issue here, which is me getting on that fucking thing.
On topic.
Save the woods and you'll be on it.
It's pretty obvious where this is going. I have to save the woods. Alright. Bloody hell. It feels like I never stop saving woods around here. Sherwood Forest was me. Alright, so fine, I'll save the wood. Right, okay. Yeah, I don't see, and again, fair play to the guy. I've got a lot of time for him. He's a really talented comedian. But I don't see Acaster wandering around and saving too many woods. If he has done, he's kept it very quiet, that's all. I don't remember. Yes, lives in Brixton now. Living for London. Oh, I live in London. But, I remember the last time I went through the Forest of Dean, Acaster looming out of an oak, going, "This is actually all my work," you know. Right, okay, well, the path is fairly clear, I suppose. It's been quite an involved evening. I save a wood, I get on there, and hundreds of years from now, I'm still on there when someone does a gig here because of the death of a... The gig is not because of the death of the monarch, it is a reaction to the closure of the venue, which was... Anyway, everything's fine. Okay, cool. Until now, I think I've managed to avoid causing potential treasonous offences. And anyway, so thank you very much to Deputy Mayor Emily. And once again, it's not easy, is it? But it's something like Fedorovich.
Well, these guys say it's a fedora,
right? And
then like a robo, and then like a witch. So Fedorovich.
Fedorovich.
Yeah.
Fedorovich. Deputy Mayor Emily Fedorovich. Quite noisy, some of these environmentalists, I must say. Mate, I'm saving them right now. Well, fairly soon I will have to leave, and I will get on with the business of saving the woods. I just... incredibly, well, perhaps not incredibly, but I'd say surprisingly, it's now 2 hours since we first assembled. So the church, and I have been known to do these sort of things for 24 hours. That's not going to happen this evening for a number of reasons, both legal and logistical. But yeah, I suppose before I go, I should talk a little bit about what we all really came for, which is these woods. Now, what's it called? Weekly Hall. As in weekly, like a weekly newspaper. But guess what, guys? The planet is not weekly. It does not replenish like, what's a weekly magazine? The New Statesman? Anyway. It does not... not easy saving woods, actually. It might be called Weekly Hallwoods, but actually, a better name would be Once in a Lifetime Hallwoods. And if we don't act... Yeah, you like this stuff? Yeah, great this. Man, I just love trees. And if we don't start campaigning... Oh, hang on, you have started campaigning. Also, that's a hell of a lot of names on the petition. Who? The government themselves, or where's the petition? The petition is to the Duke himself. Right, well, the Duke of, what's it called? Buccleuch. Which is in Scotland, isn't it? Or?
Well, he is in Scotland, but yeah.
The Duke in question is in Scotland. And so these woods are owned by a sort of, and I hate the phrase, evil Scot. The last thing we need is anyone from Scotland coming down and settling in Northamptonshire. A little bit of Corby humour there. Is there nothing this guy can't turn his hand to, you might ask yourself. Right, I assume, like most people, the Duke of Buccleuch is currently watching the Insta Live. Well, we'll see. You won't be able to know straight away, Flo, but how many people are watching now?
168.
168? Right, we're back up almost... and does anyone have a username like Duke of Buccleuch, but there might be underscores or hash, like, you know... It might all be one word, but also he might be there under an alias, I suppose.
Yeah,
well,
I think so. I think he's under an alias.
So here's my personal message to a guy that I've crossed swords with before now, the Duke of Buccleuch. Listen, Duke. There you go. On the front foot, listen, Duke. I'm not here to fuck about. I'm not here to fuck spiders, as the Australians unbelievably say, but they do. That is a genuine Australian phrase, meaning I'm not here to mess about. The Australians, savages. There'll be at least a few of you, and if you're from Australia, you can verify that is a... Yeah, are you Australian?
Yeah, I lived there for 26 years.
It's a real phrase, isn't it?
It is.
The first time I was in Australia and someone was late for a meeting and someone said, "We haven't come here to fuck spiders," I thought, I assumed not. No, that's far from what I expected the meeting to be about. For more great Australian material, you can... Anyway, we haven't got time. Listen, Duke, you and I haven't always seen eye to eye. For example, on the thorny issue of Weekly Hallwoods. But, yeah... we disagree on almost every aspect of what should be done with Kettering's municipal parkland. But if there's one thing we can agree on, surely, Duke, if that is your real title, that's brave, it will be. Very few people pose as a Duke. Yeah, he might have bought it online, but I'm going to do the Duke the decency of accepting that you are a real Duke. Duke? I don't even know what you call a Duke. Your Honour? Your... that's not how we build bridges, mate, and there may... This type of tree might not grow in your wood, but it's an olive branch that we need now. Yeah, a bit of tree fun. Your Honour, or whatever you call a Duke. Your Grace, very good, thank you. Yet again, Alison with the assist there. Alison, I think, and I don't use this, I don't make the comparison lightly, and it will only be of interest to football fans, but Alison is a lot like N'Golo Kante. I've rarely seen someone cover so much of the pitch. Alison is you know, I'm not a Chelsea fan, far from it. I have very little admiration for that football club, but Kante is, in a way, the ultimate total footballer, and so is Alison. Alison is equally comfortable forging forward or going back and winning the ball. Alison is equally comfortable when it comes to church history, how to talk to a duke, or some other stuff. Anyway, Your Grace, look, old boy. It's a bit odd that you live miles away from this wood, but you own it. I don't know what your financial situation is. I can imagine it would be very lucrative for you to sell up for developers. But there are, and it's difficult to estimate, but well in excess of 10,000 people here. And that's only half of the people whose names are currently on a petition to save, and this has been a passion of mine for a long time now, Weekly Hall Wood. To you, Your Grace, is just another of your many woods. You've got woods coming out of your, and I say this respectfully, Your Grace, arsehole. Whereas some of these people around me, like Des, don't own a single wood. These people want to use...
You started the campaign to save it.
They started the campaign. Fair play. Des, again, I don't use the phrase lightly, Your Grace. Des is a guy who eats, drinks, sleeps, and shits Weekly Hall Wood.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. If you cut Des open, firstly, don't do it. Secondly, instead of blood, Weekly Hall Wood would trickle out of his stricken corpse. I don't think that Weekly Hall Wood can possibly mean more to you, Your Grace, than it does to this man here, Des. And Des is just one voice, just one spokesperson among thousands of people in Kettering and the wider Northamptonshire constituency who want to see Weekly Hall Wood. For a moment I was so emotional I forgot the name of the wood there, which can happen, of course it can. All of these people want to see it remain in the public domain rather than being yet another piece of green space eroded by commercial interest. So please, Duke, do the right thing, Your Grace. I have no skin in this game, Your Grace. I am merely a concerned Kettering resident. I'm just like all of you. I get up in the morning in Kettering, put my trousers on, and think, oh, here I am once again in Kettering. Here I am once again, not quite in Northampton, but not too far away. Here I am, I think to myself, conveniently situated for East Midlands Rail. I'm a guy, like any Kettering resident, that wakes up in the morning and thinks it would be equally easy for me to get to London or Chesterfield today. Today I could be at Buckingham Palace or I could be examining a peculiar spire, I think to myself. Today I think to myself, I could go and see that weird thing at East Midlands Parkway with the power. It is no exaggeration to say that if you wake up in Kettering, you could be in Leeds in less than 2.5 hours, because I have lived that reality myself today. Kettering is a special place. We must treasure it, and that means treasuring its woodland areas. Your Grace, do a decent thing and save Weekly Hall Wood. Obviously, this has mostly been about a sort of just doing a fun thing, but all of us have got careers to look after. So I'll just say, while I've got this massive global Instagram thing going on, if anyone else has got a wood that needs saving, I'm doing this for free, but I'm not above freelance conservationism in the future. Actually, last year I did do a campaign to save our chalk streams, and I was paid for that, but nonetheless... Well, I did save them. 85% of the world's chalk streams are in northern France and Britain. Let's think about the kingfishers. Right. God almighty, I've had a strange career. I'm now a guy that sort of takes a look at the clock, thinks about the last train times, and cuts his cloth accordingly.
It's fair enough.
Well, yeah.
3 minutes to the station. Thank you.
An amazing city, because this has probably been longer than the theatre show would have been, but you have to factor in the unusually long drink service time. Now, what I will say before I go is, in the interval, somebody... Hello. See you later, yeah. Most people don't leave when you say things like, before I go. There we go. It's injury time. Mind you, now he's leaving, I think I can share this quite odd snippet of conversation with you, which the guy that said "see you later" there came up to me in the interval when I met quite a number of you, and he had his beer, and he looked me in the eyes and said, "I'm not going to start a fight with you, mate. Cheers." I don't know what that meant. Maybe he's one of these pro-Duke guys, I suppose. You sometimes hear about those guys. Yeah, so, I don't quite know how to handle this, because this is, and has been all along... Oh, they've ramped that up a notch as well. We knew that was coming. We knew they had a bit left in the tank. Well, guess what? So has Watson. Watson's got... Again, awful phrase, a huge tank. Watson's got a bloody catalytic... No, what's a catalytic converter? Right, no, the opposite. I don't have a car. Of course not. I can't drive. If I could drive, would I be doing this? Still, yes. Some people with cars prefer to drive them straight into the woods and target trees, I suppose. Excuse me, those dance moves make you part of our problem. No, you're absolutely free to do that. Anyway, look, in the interval, two separate people came up to me and offered to take a charity collection for this, which doesn't seem like a bad idea, but it's very much non-compulsory, because I said all along, we'll just do this for the hell of it. But the thing is, I've got a charity which I set up, which supports, or is designed to support, lower income comedians, specifically at the Edinburgh Fringe, but generally in comedy ventures, because I'm fortunate to... Anyway, blah, blah, blah. But also, it's now come to my attention that the woods need saving. So I think we'll probably go halves between my thing and the woods. But anyway, but also, I think it might be a case of... Well, who's got that bucket? Was it Des?
Yeah. Ready to go.
So are you... I mean, this is the side of charity appeals that you don't always see. But is there a world where you could do that, but keep the cash and transfer it to me or something? Basically, what I'm saying is, I don't necessarily want to go to the station with a bucket that's got money in it, and that's not to do down the people of Kettering. We're all great. All of us are just tree lovers that just go to bed at night and think about our ancient church and our woodland. But
we'll sort it.
I think we'll do it like that.
Yeah.
Mark, the people online have found the petition and are signing it as well.
Oh yeah. Of course they have. I don't have a huge online following, but the people that there are capable of almost anything, including signing a petition. So already now, people on Instagram are signing the petition. If you're watching on the Insta Live, which is just a cooler way of saying Instagram Live, I'm sure someone will have put the petition in the, what we call the... Do we call it the chat box?
Chat box, yeah.
In the chat box. So, hi. Anyway, yeah. So sign the petition. Right, look, what is it, 20,000 currently? We're getting that to just over 20,000.
It's 21,000 now.
It's 21,000 now! I'm sorry to come all Bono about it. We're getting that to just over 21,000. I'll also tweet the petition afterwards. I do have quite a lot of Twitter followers, but you will have had to have watched this to really understand what's going on, I think. Right.
Hashtag tree high.
Thank you. I have to say, I've really enjoyed this. And if you're me, you can't help asking yourself whether you could do more tour shows like this, really. And the answer is probably not, because you sort of, oh yeah, no, you definitely wouldn't want to get drinks for everyone every time. I don't think these should replace tour shows, but it might be a way of... Anyway, this is for me to think about. Nonetheless, this has been the first show of its kind. What I'm going to do is... you think, wouldn't you? You think, Mark Watson, first show of its kind. Yeah. Look, I leave the wording to the people. Your deputy mayor said it herself. It's about the will of the people. What I will say is, whether you came from the outset, or you came because you saw this going on during it, or as in some cases, you've come in the past 10 minutes and you do not know what is happening. Thank you very much for supporting this. What I'll do is quickly hang around, say thank you to people, and then I suppose the phrase is, but it's not meant to be as harsh as this, escape Kettering. But all of you already know I'm back here for what the rescheduled version of my actual show in November. That'll be an interesting one, I think. By then we'll have saved the woods, and we can sort of focus on other targets. By then, also, I imagine I'll have a reasonably senior position in the Council of Kettering.
And you're going to the podcast too.
And I'll be on the podcast. Well, that, again, is down to the will of the people. And those people are James Acaster and Ed Gamble. And I should be very surprised if they have relented. If anything, if I'm them, this would make me dig my heels in even more. But there you are. Your move now, Acaster. Are you going to come to Bristol and trying to get on my podcast? Because if you do, I'll let you. All right, but mine isn't as famous. So it's a case of, I suppose it's a case of goodbye. I'll return to. Of course, they're pulling out all the stops across the road now. I wouldn't be amazed if we heard single ladies soon. But it's. I thought for a minute I thought we were hearing it there. Yeah. Anyway. This has been, and I've done quite a number of unusual gigs in my life, but it's certainly up there, I'd say, for a number of reasons. I'd like to finish by saying that I'm a woman in just a second. Very briefly, in case anyone has come to this late online and is wondering, I obviously support the decision of Kettering Arts. Well, they didn't really have any choice but to not stage this gig because of their status as a church, and I respect everyone who wishes to serve this period of mourning by not doing these sorts of things, but I think it is also nice that people have the opportunity to have things like entertainment and sport and other things, because, you know, at the end of the day, we're quite a resilient nation. And I didn't know the Queen, quite obviously, but I'm pretty sure she would have not minded what people did as long as they did it in a way that they enjoyed and which increased the net happiness of people. So there we go. Hope I'm not wrong about that, but if I am wrong, I suppose I'll hear from the King fairly shortly. Best wishes then to everyone connected with the royal family and to the people of Kettering. Good luck with your words. Thank you for watching on Instagram, and thank you to everyone who has supported this peculiar endeavour. My name, obviously, is Mark Watson, and I'll see you again. Thank you. Goodbye.